Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. And today I'm going to go to my review of SummerSlam 2008. Starting off the evening, we'll go to our first match of the night. It is Jeff Hardy versus MVP. I thought this was an okay opening matchup for SummerSlam 2008. Back and forth matchup between Hardy and MVP, with Jeff keeping the pace of the match. Jeff hits a slingshot leg drop on MVP. Jeff then hits a whisper in the wind off the top rope on MVP as well. But MVP ultimately hits a drive-by on Jeff Hardy, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match is MVP. Hats off to MVP for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is Kofi Kingston and Mickie James versus Santino Marella and Beth Phoenix for the WWE Women's Championship as well as the WWE Intercontinental Championship. The match itself, it was an okay matchup. Back and forth matchup between both teams, with Kofi Kingston and Mickie James keeping the pace of the match. Mickie James ultimately hits a hurricanrana on Beth Phoenix, but Beth Phoenix hits the finish on Mickie James, pins her for the 3, and your winners of the match and new WWE Women's and Intercontinental Champion are Santino Marella and Beth Phoenix. Hats off to Santino Marella and Beth Phoenix for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is for the ECW Championship. It is Mark Henry versus Matt Hardy. I thought this was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between Henry and Hardy, with Mark Henry keeping the pace of the match. Hardy hits a twist of fate on Henry, but Tony Atlas ends up attacking Matt Hardy. Referee ends up seeing this, and your winner of the match by disqualification is Matt Hardy. Hats off to Matt Hardy for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It's for the World Heavyweight Championship. It is JBL versus CM Punk. I thought this was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between JBL and Punk, with Punk keeping the pace of the match. JBL hits a fallaway slam off the middle rope on Punk. JBL also hits multiple elbow drops on Punk in the middle of the ring. JBL and Punk both exchange in the middle of the ring. Punk then goes for a springboard maneuver, but JBL counters it with a power slam. But Punk gets up, hits his signature GTS on JBL, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match, and at that time still World Heavyweight Champion, is CM Punk. Hats off to CM Punk for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is Triple H versus Great Khali for the WWE Championship. I thought this was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between Triple H and Khali, with Khali hitting a devastating chokeslam on Triple H. Khali then applies a vice grip on Triple H, but Triple H breaks the hold. Khali then hits a chop on Triple H. Khali was keeping the pace of the match. Khali then hits a leg drop on Triple H for a near fall. Khali then applies another vice grip on Triple H, but Triple H breaks the hold. Then Triple H hits his signature pedigree on the Great Khali, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match is Triple H. Hats off to Triple H for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is John Cena versus Batista. I thought this was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between John Cena and Batista, with John Cena keeping the pace of the match. Batista then applies a figure 4 leg lock on Cena, but Cena breaks the hold. Cena then applies an STFU on Batista, but Batista breaks the hold. Cena then goes for a top rope maneuver on Batista, but Batista counters it with a powerbomb. And then Batista hits his signature Batista bomb on Cena, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match is Batista. Hats off to Batista for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our main event of SummerSlam 2008. It is Edge versus Undertaker in a Hell in a Cell match. I thought this was a great matchup. Back and forth matchup between Edge and Taker, with Edge keeping the pace of the match. Edge goes for a spear on Taker, but Taker counters it with a choke slam. Both Edge and Undertaker both exchange in the middle of the ring. Taker ends up throwing Edge off the top turnbuckle onto tables, and then Taker ultimately gets the win in this matchup. Couple of things I'm going to say about SummerSlam 2008, man, before I get out of here. Number one, this was a solid event. I'm not going to sit here and say this was the best SummerSlam I've ever seen, but it damn sure was not the worst. There's a couple of good matches on this card that I actually appreciated. There were some matches that I honestly didn't care for. Jeff Hardy versus MVP, it seemed very lackluster, in my honest opinion. Not taking anything away from Jeff Hardy, but MVP, I feel like, didn't do anything in this matchup, and Jeff was pretty much trying to carry the whole entire match. But at the same time, too, it looked like Hardy was kind of, he was carrying the match, but at the same time, too, it looked like MVP was trying to do a little bit more than Jeff. Not just to secure the win, but I felt like, MVP was trying to do everything he can to carry the match. Kofi Kingston versus Mickie James versus Santino Marella versus Beth Phoenix was also a good matchup. It was a mixed tag team matchup for the WWE Women's Championship as well as the Intercontinental Championship. I thought that was a relatively good matchup. Mark Henry versus Matt Hardy for the ECW Championship. It was a good match. I wish we got a concrete finish in that match, but unfortunately we had a disqualification due to the attack from Tony Atlas. JBL versus CM Punk. Very good matchup for the World Heavyweight Championship. And I'm glad that Punk got the win in that match. Triple H versus Khali. It was a decent match. For what it's worth, I mean, I'm not a big fan of the Great Khali, and usually Great Khali doesn't really give you a lot of really notable matches even throughout his career. But this was one of those matches I can honestly say that I actually enjoyed. And I think Khali kind of gave Triple H a run for his money in this match in the beginning, in my honest opinion. So that was a good matchup. John Cena versus Batista, also a very good matchup. And the main event. The main event was the best match of the night on here. It was Edge versus Undertaker in a Hell in a Cell match. Absolutely fantastic matchup. And again, hats off to The Undertaker for getting the win in that match. As far as giving SummerSlam 2008 a rating from 1 out of 10, I'm going to give it a solid 5.5 at best, man. Like I had stated earlier, this wasn't the worst SummerSlam I've ever seen, but this damn sure was not the best. So I'm going to have to give SummerSlam 2008 a solid 5.5 at best, man. But this is my review of SummerSlam 2008. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.